What's going on, everybody? Lee Money here from the Steel City Renegades. And if you need auto parts, there's only one place that I know I go, and that's Detroit Auto Parts. Detroit Auto Parts is the official parts store of Red Line Radio LLC. They have two convenient locations on the east side. You can call 216 531 7373, or on the west side, call 216 398 7373. Mention Redline Radio and receive 10% off your purchase. So don't forget, if you need any parts for your vehicle today, reach out to Detroit Auto Parts, the official home and auto parts store of Redline Radio LLC. What's going on, everybody? Lee Money here, the host of Money's Crazy Mind and Steel City Renegades. And you know, Redline Radio LLC is proud to partner with Growing Wings Adult Services for the creation of our brand new state-of-the-art production studio. Growing Wings Adult Services has been assisting adults with disabilities in the Northeast Ohio area for the past 5 years. For more information on how Lisa and the team at Growing Wings can assist your family, you can contact Lisa at 234-334-7547 today. Again, that's 234-334-7547.
What's going on, everybody? It is Tim Buck 2 from Tim Buck Tuesday. And you know, I really hate doing home improvement, but I love the way it looks. So what I do is I call Wiggins Construction and Home Improvement. They fix bathrooms, windows, kitchens, sliding doors, and much more. Give Will a call today at 440-731-7654 and tell him Redline sent you. He'll get your house looking right in no time.
What's going on, everybody? Lee Money here from Money's Crazy Mind. And I don't know about you guys, but I know that sometimes after my trash has been picked up, man, does my garbage can smell like, well, trash. Well, if you have the same problem that I'm having, then you can reach out to Fitz's Trash Bin Cleaning LLC. They offer trash can cleaning and pressure washing. Fitz's Trash Bin Cleaning is locally owned, eco-friendly trash can cleaning service in Northwest Ohio, serving North Ridgeville and the surrounding areas. You can reach Fitz's Trash Bin Cleaning LLC at 440-752-1533 or at their website, ftbcusa.com, or you can email Brandon at ftbcusa.com, or you can check them out on Facebook, FTBCUSA. And of course, if you mention Redline Radio while you book a service, you receive 10% off the first service. That's an awesome deal. And don't forget to reach out to Fitz's Trash Bin Cleaning Service LLC today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Redline Radio. We are bringing to you the Women's Health Summit. I am Jessica Steffes. I will be your host in this conversation. I want to just make a disclaimer here that I am basing all of my thoughts on my own personal life, and those that are with me are doing the same. None of us are actually licensed therapists, so take it with a grain of salt, because a lot of things have to be decided in your own mind and in your own way. So just understand that we are just bringing yet another resource to you to help you in your journey. I bring with me today Miss Tiffany Neiman. Tiffany, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, my name is Tiffany Neiman, as Jessica said, and I'm newer to the Northeast Ohio area. In my mind, I guess it's been about 12 years, but it's hard to believe it's been that long. I am an obsessive dog mom, foster mom, and very not so great, but aspiring dart player.
Oh, I think you could take me.
Yeah, you would
I
think
might-
after 25 years of that, I would have gotten
Well,
better,
I'm
but
lucky
no.
if I even hit the board. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're much better off. So we also bring with us. I can never say your last name, Nikki. I just call her Miss Nikki. We bring her together. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm Nikki Visikinen.
See, I can't do it. You're gonna have to put the little bit of the dictionary version of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Phonetic reading there. Yeah.
So it's actually Ukrainian, so that's why it's a little hard to
Of
pronounce.
course, of course.
But been here for a couple generations. I used to sing as a kid, and now I just enjoy traveling with my boyfriend and hanging out with our dog and cat.
Oh, that is awesome. And I actually haven't actually introduced myself in quite some time. I took a little bit of time off at the end of the year. I was going through something, ladies. So just understand, even in my world, I don't have it all together all the time. But I did take a step back because I do feel that when we are not mentally well, we are of no good to anybody else. So that is why I did take some time off. But I do want to let you know that one of the fun facts about me is that I have pretty much been a mom since I was 20 years old. So most of my bumps in the road or my stories are pretty much household related. I have had to figure out this journey thus far on my own. So there's quite a bit of fumbles in my life. So that's what I bring to the table is just some fun stories of things that I've learned over the years. And you can't always blame yourself. Some things do happen because of environmental. So I do want to tell you guys, thank you for joining us today. If you are joining, please do hit that share button. We're going to talk today about our perception of our body, mind, and soul. So one of the things that I've learned over the years about perception is we have a lot of conditioning and a lot of other people's trauma that does influence how we see ourselves, even from a young age. I learned very, very, very early on in a military home, you grow up too fast and become very responsible at a very early age. And it changes your perception, not only of yourself, but of the world around you. So just understand that a lot of my tics and quirkiness comes from learning to be an adult at 8 years old. So now that I'm older and my kids are grown, I tend to act like a kid. That's pretty much how I want to live the rest of my life because I didn't get a childhood. So I was kind of looking into this topic because I really don't just use my experiences in life. I really want to know what other people think. Because sometimes I find that it's not just me. It's not just me. It's happening around everybody. So I looked into this topic and I found out there are actually 4 different types of influences in our lives from the time we're born to whatever you are in your journey right now. We start off in our journey as family influences. This is where we get our first glimpse of our self-awareness. Our family tells us, oh my God, you're so adorable. And we believe that till we're, older and we learn that there are creases in our faces and the adorableness just doesn't stay where it was when we were adorable. But a lot of our self-awareness comes from other people's trauma, our parents' trauma, our siblings' trauma. Maybe our parents didn't have what they needed when they were old, when they were growing up. So they took with them what they could from what they had. And this is how we break the cycle, folks. Ladies, we got to break the cycle. We are grown. We are the last generation, at least for my generation, we are the last generation of the lock key kids that had to be grown before we were grown. And I feel it's our duty to break that cycle, not to perpetuate it into the next generation. I feel like that's our time right now. And that's why I feel this is such a good topic to talk about. I do want to talk for a minute about self-awareness. versus narcissism, because there are people in the world that believe other people are narcissists when they are just very proud that they've reached this point in their journey that they can say, this is me. This is who I am. And I love that about myself. That's self-awareness. Narcissism is, it's all about me. My life is not complete unless it's all about me. And when you get somebody that betrays that logic, then they become your enemy. And even no matter how much they love you and how much they show you every day that they love you, it's never going to be enough because you don't love yourself. And that's the other thing we're going to talk about today is loving ourselves, ladies, because I do feel that even though men and women both go through failure to love ourselves through our childhood, I do think, unfortunately, guys, women do have more conditioning that's put on us. We're the ones that are told at an early age that our objective in life is to become a wife and a mother. And when we choose not to be a wife or a mother, we are not human. So this is why it's important for women to love women, regardless of if you feel that person would make a good mother. Maybe they just seen too much in their life to just never want that for their children. And because they're not healed, they don't want to perpetuate that same toxic behavior. So we got to give it to women that just want to stand on their own 2 feet, be their own person, and not let these perceptions around. But another thing that happens is we kind of determine who we are based off of our peers, what everybody else is doing, what everybody else's trauma is. Well, your trauma is worse than mine, so I'm doing good in life, you know? And we try to gravitate towards like-minded people that don't challenge us, people that think like us, but, you know, maybe take it to a different extreme. And we're not that bad, but we still let those people into our hearts and into our minds and influence our thought process. Another influence is our culture, our social life. Who we spend time with. If you are a type of person that likes to go to the club all the time when you get off of work, guess what kind of people you're going to hang around? You're going to hang around those same kind of like-minded people. And you're going to see in those socials a certain kind of norm. Now, I will share with you one perception from mine because I do want to get the ladies talking on this subject. One subject of mine was for 5 years, I lived the life of what we call an old lady in wrestling, in independent wrestling. And with that comes a perception. You become an old lady. Everything is about wrestling. Every weekend is about a show. Everything is about promoting that show, promoting that wrestler. You no longer are yourself. So when I talk about social cultural norms, it's also the environment we get into. And finally, our media. How much do we listen to as fact? We take the time to listen to the news and let that influence us. We take the time to listen to the trend or who's talking about what celebrity broke up with who that did what. And we start to kind of see that as the norm. Like that's the goal to reach. These people get to have this bougie life and we want that as an achievement, but that's not really what it is. It's a fabricated achievement. It's not a real goal. So let me just kind of put it to the room. Tiffany, since I was going to start with Nikki, because she was actually started out
That's okay.
on one side, I'm going to go around the room. We'll start with Tiffany. I do want to kind of pick you guys' brain as far as in your travels in your life, where you started. Just like with me, I have a different perception because I'm a military kid. You know, where did you grow up? How did life influence you to perceive where you are at?
For me, I grew up in what's really, I don't want to call it stereotypical because I don't know that it is yet. But I grew up in the kind of standard patriarchal, family coupled with going to to a religious
So-
school,
so
so,
you
the very
kinda did-
toxic combination.
So,
yeah.
so you would say you grew up in like the picturesque suburban home?
That's the perception from looking in.
Yes. Yes,
That's
I would
very
say
much
I would agree
not-
with that
yeah, very
same
much-
statement. That's why it's stereotyped, because people don't
Mhm.
know from the outside
Yeah.
looking in. It's not what it looks like.
No, instead, I grew up with my dad, who he was also military, but it, just that didn't really impact my life a whole lot. But he was gone a lot.
Mhm.
He worked out of town by choice, and so it was just
Just you and your mom and
until it wasn't, and we had to move in with my grandmother and my aunt, and so now I'm surrounded by all women other than my little brother and my dad around
Oh.
occasionally.
on the mother's side?
yeah,
On your mother's side?
Who,
Yeah.
My
Yes.
grandmother was a very, very wonderful person and very much bucked the system. If for her generation, she was divorced, Catholic, and
Oh, good for
and
her.
she took care of things. She had her own house.
Oh.
She did it all.
Shout out to
without-
grandma.
Yeah, she did it
Oh,
all without a man
flex
around.
yourself. There you go.
He took off. He took no responsibility for his kids, and so she stepped up and she did it.
Good for her. Good for her.
She did everything. Everything that someone born in the 20s wouldn't have been expected to do.
Right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
brave. That is
Yeah.
really brave too, because especially Catholic. Oh
Yeah.
my
Oh,
gosh.
yes. And
She was just a
Mhm.
leper to them then.
It-
Ooh.
Yeah, very much. You have to
Oof.
get special dispensation just to continue to
Yeah.
get communion. Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up Lutheran,
Mhm.
so it's like the softer version of Catholic
Yeah.
Church. We don't we don't have all of the rules and regulations that the Catholic Church, but I did grow up learning about them. So
Yeah.
yes, I know what you're talking about.
Well, and the church and school itself are also they're just not very nice to women, and they certainly don't foster an atmosphere that will help you to learn to
Right.
respect and love yourself at all.
Right.
Just from the very beginning, you're going to church every day, but only boys are allowed to be involved, and only boys could be altar boys at that time. It's
Right,
changed.
Right.
It's
Yes,
changed
yes.
since I
And
was in school.
I will tell you,
Yeah.
the first time the women started being pastors in churches.
Yeah.
Oh my God. People
The
just.
sky's falling.
Oh,
Yeah.
holy crap. We
Yeah.
are in the end times.
Mhm.
What is happening? Yeah.
So I mean, that's as a
That's
small
good.
kid, as a small kid, that's what I learned.
Yeah.
Like that. Despite the fact that I, have a grandmother who's like just a rock star, I'm still, we're all still living under this low hanging cloud of still not as good as the men.
Right. No, and that's
And-
really, I was actually, and to be honest, that's where I say, unfortunately for women, we do have a little bit more toxic, because of the fact that even history will tell you that women were not even allowed to have checking accounts till like the 1960s, 1970s.
Mhm.
And that's just a fact of life. It's not
Credit
even,
cards as
it's not
well.
even women trying to be woke. It's not even
Yeah.
women trying to, the Me Too movement. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
Women were not considered trustworthy enough with the family money to be able to maintain the household. They had to ask permission from their husbands. Now, what was worse was the fact that if you did not have a husband, you were a leper in your family, because now your father had to continue to take care of you until he could pawn you off to somebody, so he didn't have to do it anymore. So yes, there's an anger in the women's movement, but I think it's missed its target at who we're angry at. I
Mhm.
do, because of the fact that we have just perpetuated this cycle of being angry. We don't even know who we're angry at anymore. Are we angry at the men? Are we angry at the government? Are we angry? We don't even know anymore. So that's part of what these lessons teach us. And in that is, it's not about what the government thinks. It's not even about what the men think. You grew up in a household where a woman took control of her life. That's your guide right there. You know, what you do with that depends on the other things that you choose in your life, with your peers, with who you decide to be around. You know, I grew up in a very strong feminine household. My mom did everything. So I took that with me. Well, what I found out that equals to is I'm a good wifey. So there are different perceptions of what we see as strong.
Right.
It's not, you know, I look at what your grandmother did as I want to be like your grandma.
That's how I took it. That's how I
you know,
took it.
that's how I
Yeah.
want to be.
And that was actually downfall of my first marriage, because I was not a good wifey.
But
I
was he a good hubby though?
No,
Okay,
no, but
so-
yeah.
Well,
but,
I mean,
but
and
yeah, the
that's
problem with me not
that
having,
is for another summit.
but there was a problem that I didn't have dinner on the table every night, really.
Right.
truly.
And that's the thing is that I had, it took me all of last year. I will tell you, ladies, I was not a healthy person last year. I was healthy, don't get me wrong, but I was not healthy. I took a lot of looking back at, I had to forgive my mother, because my mother had nothing to go by. She had a family of 5 with siblings in between her that fought for affection, you know. So she learned to just be independent and deal with shit herself. So I mean, that's my perception of the world, is that's what I got to do, is I got to do it by myself. Well, I had to take the year to realize it's not necessarily about asking people for help or doing it myself. It's knowing when I actually need help and who to go to. You can't just go to everybody for help when you need help. So, Nikki, you are Ukrainian.
Yes.
So I imagine you had quite the different growings up, huh?
So we were raised Catholic, but it's what they call Byzantine or Greek
Yes.
Orthodox. So it's
so different.
It's very, very different. But a lot of
Yes.
it, it's probably most similar to Roman Catholic, which is what most people can
yes.
consider just regular Catholic. That's what
Right.
you know the Pope is.
But there
and everything.
is
So.
there is some stipulations. It's a stricter
Oh,
faith.
for sure.
It's a stricter faith.
It can be depending on where you practice and you know that particular church. There's obviously different dioceses and different branches.
Now, at any point did you feel like you had a choice to go or not go?
Yes, once I turned a certain age.
Okay.
Because the way the Byzantine Catholic faith works is you're confirmed at birth. So where most Catholic kids have a confirmation at about 14, I was confirmed at my baptism. I didn't have to do anything past my communion, which happened at age 8. So once I hit
so young.
I hit age 8 and
You're not even
received my
accountable at
communion,
8.
my parents did not force me to go because my father was forced to go by his parents. He was an altar boy.
Okay. So he was trying
had
to break
go
cycles
every
too.
week. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we were basically said, okay, you can go, but we're not going. So call your aunt, see if you can hitch a ride. Like,
so in your growings up, since it was not your typical home that you seen in when going to church, what you experienced, was it just like everybody else's?
it is, absolutely. There's different aspects to it. Like, for instance, you could follow the traditional Gregorian calendar. Most people in America now use the Julian calendar. The Gregorian calendar is about 10 days to
I think we're like in
2
a
weeks
different
set
year.
back.
Like we're in the past and on the Gregorian calendar.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely from the old school. It follows the old school calendar. So our Christmas is not until January 7th.
Okay.
Whereas most people celebrate it on December 25th. So we technically wait a little longer if you choose to follow that. Some people do both.
I've heard that.
Some
I have
people
heard that.
stick with one or the other.
Yeah.
Some people do both. But it just kind of depends on what your family traditions are. Usually there's a lot of food at every celebration with us.
Which
Christmas.
is why
Can
we
I
like-
come?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Me and Tim
Well,
are hitching a ride there.
And my family's prepared for that. So on my dad's side, at an average, Thanksgiving, Christmas, holiday cookout, there's anywhere from 20 to 35 people.
I think I've seen some of your pictures like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's like
It can
it's
be a
almost like
lot.
a wedding reception every single time.
It's two turkeys every Christmas.
Oh yeah.
2 full turkeys, and they're usually at least 12 to 15 pounds.
Tim, we gotta.
I'm excited.
So let me ask you, ladies, since you had different, because you'd have different, because that's what I'm always interested in. I'm always learning. I figure you die when you stop learning, to be honest. So
Yep.
I'm always learning. So how did these family influences or the way that you grew up help you choose your peers and your like-minded? And where did that, do you feel, might have taken a wrong turn down a road you might not have gone had you stayed the path you should have been on?
Loaded.
Take it a moment at a time. So first part of the question, how did it help you choose your peers?
I think for me personally, it was more of a golden rule thing.
Okay.
Do unto others, because that's the really basic.
I live by it. I'm 44 years old, y'all, almost 45, and I will still tell everybody the golden rule. It's how I live. I don't live any other way.
Right. Amen. Like, if you can't at least be conscious of what you're doing to other people,
exactly,
I don't have time. So
where do you think that by living that way, because you would think it's the perfect, I mean, I'm finding it the perfect way to live.
Yeah, really.
It really is the perfect way to live. However, where did you go wrong? Because you have been down some serious paths, girlfriend. In your lifetime.
Yeah.
So, because if we set up in our lives the perfect tribe, then we will never be in conflict. Is the way and that's what I'm doing now, is trying to find that sweet spot where I have everybody I need in my life, doing everything that I'm doing for them. That's the combination I'm looking for in life. So you would think if you live by the golden rule, it would have always been the perfect life, right?
Well, the problem is not everybody gives 100%. Right. So growing up, we heard relationships are 50-50, 50-50. No, they're not. They're 100-100.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't put your full heart and soul into something, you shouldn't continue to do it.
100.
If
agree.
You can't give it everything, it's
and that
not
doesn't
for
go,
you.
And that's not just like between a relationship between a man and a woman.
Right. That's everything.
Everybody. That's your mom, your dad, anybody you interact with in your life. If they're not giving 100 to you, then, and you're not giving 100 to them, it's you're going to have, and then what happens? We go looking for the people that give us 100, right? And sometimes those people end up being the wrong influences on us.
Yes.
So, Tiff, how about you?
So as much as I adored my grandmother and appreciated who she was, that really she wasn't appreciated by everyone else that way. And so that resulted in, mostly because of the religion that she was very faithful to, and the rest of our family, it was still kind of emphasized that as a woman, you're not complete without a man. It's something, and that
you feel that kind of carried over into your philosophy.
Yes, it absolutely it did. It was just kind of I can't be successful if I don't have a man. If I don't have a man, regardless of the fact that I was doing everything on my own. I was also a single mom. going to school, working 3 jobs, doing what I
Still
had to
have,
do.
but you still
Yeah,
have it embedded.
But I was still,
It's still
even
brainwashed into
even
us.
from my family,
Hardwired from birth, I
yeah,
swear.
even from my own family.
Yeah.
You're not, you're not successful without a man, and so I felt like that's what I had to do, and so I always based my self-worth on relationships.
Mhm.
I didn't have a lot of close friendships growing up. In school, I never fit in, never anywhere. I always felt different. I didn't fit in Catholic school. I didn't fit in when I went to public school, and I could never figure out why, So I stayed to myself. It turns out I was undiagnosed autistic and ADHD.
That is our downfall as Gen X.
Because it was a big deal that my generation.
It is.
That it would have been shameful. You would have been ostracized.
Failed us kids. They
or
did.
The school system or our parents.
All of them.
They weren't making us test.
Oh yeah.
So I masked my whole life.
Okay.
I masked to get by. So I did not have friends, and so I didn't have any positive influence to help me know that wasn't the case.
That wasn't normal.
Yeah, that wasn't normal.
It's not normal.
And it's not normal to think that you need a man in
Or
order
anybody.
to love yourself or anyone.
Right.
Yes.
You don't need
don't
another
need anyone
human
else.
being to justify your existence.
And to have anything to do with your self-worth or how much you love yourself.
Right.
It's not based on anything external.
Right.
That's what happens. That's how we're conditioned, but it's not.
The reality is truly is.
It's a choice.
I will tell you, because when things started changing for me and my perception started changing for me, and I started actually, ladies, I was left with this thought of, I have never discovered me. I went from graduating high school to getting married and having babies. So at that journey that most 20-year-olds have to figure themselves out, I was being thrown up and pooped on all through my 20s. So, that was my perception. This is as good as it freaking gets for me, So when I ended my last relationship, I started with this fresh, I don't even know what I like. I don't even know. Do I prefer Twist ice cream to vanilla or chocolate? Like, do I like gummy bears? Do I really like gummy bears? These kind of, even that simple level, I was asking permission to buy pickles at the store from my husband. Come on now. So that's where I want to lead to, how these things influence what happens to us. We're allowing all of these outside things to dictate and define us and we do it, we allow it. That's the hard lesson, ladies. We allow it. We are to blame for allowing it, not for it happening, but for allowing it to just be. We never questioned it. We never asked questions. Now, I will tell you, this generation is one of the most difficult to raise. And I talk to my girls all the time about this because I do applaud them for their audacity. They ask questions. They don't take what I have to say. They want to know why. And you know what? I should have to tell them. It's not because I'm mom. It's because I have too much to do and I need you to help me. That's as simple as it gets. I don't know why we have had this tremendous need to be overpowering to our children because it was done to us. They have the right to question their world. Absolutely. Just like we had the right to question it. We just didn't know we had the right to question it. We were the obedient generation that did everything we were told because God forbid you not follow the rules. Yeah. So that's where I do learn a lot from my girls. And I do learn a lot. We do have a lot of conversations. And Jessica eats crow a lot. A lot. Because my perception is tainted from how I grew up. Yeah. So that's one thing that I want to talk about. Tiffany, What in your opinion is your worst feature?
My, I have to pick one, huh?
And that's why I'm asking the question.
Everybody's their own worst critic, though.
And that's why I'm asking the
realistically.
question, because perception of self has an effect on how we perceive every part of ourselves.
It's my
Yeah.
weight. It's being
You-
overweight. because
being
Being
overweight.
overweight has always been a problem for everyone else.
But for you,
It made it a problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
because of outside.
Yeah.
But
It-
I will tell you
it
one thing.
Meant I couldn't have things that actually made me happy. I couldn't
Yes!
have clothes. They didn't make clothes when I
Not
was
pretty
young.
ones.
No,
They don't
I
make
was-
pretty clothes for
I
big
was-
girls.
I was
No.
yes, I was made to feel uglier because I didn't have a choice.
Right.
I couldn't wear cute things. It was
And
it
the
was my punishment.
undergarments.
Yeah.
Good Lord, right?
The
Yeah,
undergarments
yeah,
too. They just
yeah.
started making
Yeah.
cute undergarments
Oh my God!
for
if you were-
larger women, and
right?
thank God. Like,
and I will tell you, ladies, I grew up in the 1950s, old fashioned. We
Mhm.
didn't wear these pretty little panties
Mm-mm.
that these girls today wear.
No,
we
you
wore
wore-
grandma
They were
panties.
bloomers.
Right.
Yeah,
They were
they
whitey
bloomers.
tidies for
Yeah,
girls.
Yes.
They were not
Mhm.
pretty.
Yeah.
So, and you grew
you were
up
lucky
like
if
that.
you had colors.
Yeah.
and I will tell you, when I grew up, it was difficult for me to see adult women actually dressing that way,
Mm.
because that was how you presented that to your husband.
Mm.
You didn't present that to just anybody. You didn't post that on Facebook.
Right.
Oh my God. You don't show your body on Facebook.
No.
That's shameful. So those are things.
Gasp.
I know.
But we also didn't have cameras that instantly uploaded
Oh, dear
to the World Wide Web when
God,
we were
that's
kids. There's
true
no
too.
evidence.
That's true
Anything we
too.
ever did wrong, there's
But it's a
hardly any
perception-
evidence.
But it's also perception of self. You have
Mm-hmm.
to post these pictures to get the applause that you don't give yourself.
Yes, and the instant gratification from it on top of it.
It's not that I don't. I applaud any woman that feels comfortable enough to just flaunt themselves on
correct.
Facebook.
Absolutely.
However, where is it coming from? You always got to ask yourself, when you post a selfie or when you post a full figure, are you coming from a place of pride?
Mhm.
Are you happy about how you look? Or are you just trying to get justification because you feel like you don't look good? So you want somebody to tell you, no, babe, you look awesome. You are so gorgeous. Some women are at that place in their life that they need the validation. And although there are times where, I find it difficult, I do have to give it to them because of the fact that they are taking something so personal and you are putting it out there for the world to see and judge.
Right.
The sad part is that you need that. And the reality is you don't. So what would you say your best feature is?
Being open-minded.
Ooh,
Okay.
Good one.
I like that one. Because everyone, I just want to point this out. It's not just about your physical being. It affects your physical being, but it doesn't have to always be your best feature as your physical being. Is a good point, Tiff. How about you, Nikki? What is your worst feature?
Probably my ability to go from 0 to 60 if I let myself.
Okay.
And I've been working on not doing that and
Okay.
not reacting.
Okay. So that's actually a mind thing.
Yeah.
What about your body? What is your worst feature?
Well, partially the overweight thing, partially I have a scar that's on my face from having a cyst removed.
Okay.
That kind of bugs me sometimes
Okay.
because it's in a very visible spot. And if I point it out, you will never unsee it. But you don't notice it otherwise, but it's one of those things.
But you know.
Yes.
But
Oh,
you know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where we always look in the mirror and we can see it even if other people say they can't.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. And that's really where, and I'll throw myself out on the sword. I actually have a tale to tell of my journey of my worst feature. When I was 16, I was told by a lady, and not to go into too many details, but I'm a poet. And when I was 16, I was very, very interested in writing. It's my passion. And one of the ladies at church, she was actually an editor. So I took some of my work to her for her to critique. And so I knew where my strengths were, where I needed to work on. And this woman didn't talk about my writing. She talked about my features. She told me at 16 years old that I had very good birthing hips. And that has stuck with me my whole life. And I hated my curves because of it. I hated having what I called at the time saddlebags, because that's what they were to me. So one of my healing points is that I walk past the mirror all the time now, and I look at them, and they are my girls. They are they are my girls. I don't look at them as a bad feature. They are my best feature, because of the fact that it took me my whole life
To love them.
So that's one of the things that I want to talk about is our mindset, our mirror image in our mind. I will tell you, I have struggled with weight my whole life. I have been the fat girl. I have been the obese girl. I have been that person. I grew up that way. My weight fluctuates because I am a foodie. I love my food.
Right.
There is nothing coming between me and my food. So,
Damn right.
I just love that I said that all sexy like. But that is one of the things that I've dealt with my whole life. So one of, as I called them, my healed traumas is I walk by the mirror now, and my fat girl, she's one of my personalities. She's the one that talks us into Taco Bell at 2:00 in the morning.
There's nothing better when you've been drinking.
But I do walk by, and occasionally she shows up in the mirror. And I know she shows up in some of my pictures, because those are the pictures I don't like about myself. And I don't take pictures because of it. So my mindset has to change, right? I can't look at myself in the mirror and say, "Good morning, gorgeous."
You should, though.
No, I'm saying I don't. I used to not.
Yeah.
Now I look at myself as it don't get any better than this.
Amen. And that's fire.
So that's where my growth, and that's why, ladies, I had to take a 3-month break, because of the fact that I literally felt that way about myself for a very long time. And I had to let people go in my life because of the fact that they made me feel that way about myself. And there were some hard truths to that in those 3 months that I took off. My Christmas sucked. My Christmas sucks. But it was a good healing new year. So I want to also talk about our troubled souls. When we have perception of self, we tend to go to a dark place, and we dwell there, and we stay there, and we go on autopilot, because we know what we're supposed to do, and we're adult enough to do it. We just don't feel like it. It just doesn't give us pleasure. It does not give us joy to do the things. I will tell you, my job is one of those things in my life. It did not give me joy, but I also had to look at it differently. It's only a stopping place. It is not my world. It is just a mere bus stop to my next destination. God, why can I say that? My next destination. So always look at yourself as in progress. There is never going to be a completion of it. Do I feel perfect the way I am? No.
No. Nobody's perfect, though.
No, but I'm perfect for me.
Exactly.
I learned a valuable lesson of hurting myself by doing it. And that's where I want to talk to you guys in a kind of a segue. I want to talk about our relatable scenario. So this is a new little piece I've added to my summit because I do feel that there are women and girls and ladies and of all ages, even our seasoned crones are out there dealing with trauma. And I just want to point out to you, if you don't know what trauma is, I found I always go by dictionary versions. Because somebody smarter than me figured out what the hell it means. It's not somebody's perception. It's somebody who actually figured out by studying and figured out what it means. So by definition, trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event. Now they use the real dark stuff by saying an accident, a rape, or a natural disaster. But I think a terrible event could be your parents divorcing at an early age.
Mm-hmm.
A terrible event could be, as bad as this sounds, a terrible event in your life could be your parents having another child.
Mhm.
We don't know.
Yeah.
You know, if you are an only child and your parents decide to have another child, what does that do to you? You were once their pride and joy. Everything surrounded you. And now there's this other human being in here. I will take it to that down to that level because there are people that literally have lived their whole life hating their sibling because they were born.
Anything that shakes up your world is a trauma.
It's trauma. I would agree with that.
It's personal. Yeah.
So I want to talk to you ladies about a situation that got brought to my attention. A friend of mine actually is in the process of adopting a child. And when I say a child, she's not really a child. She's almost grown. Her whole life has been spent. Her mom gave birth to her when she was 15. And her mom grew up in a home of drug addiction. And I do truly believe from what this lady is telling me that the mom did really love the dad, but I think a 15-year-old doesn't really know what love is. And I think it broke her. I think it broke her to a point where she couldn't take care of her own child. And so what I have found out from this young lady and the child that she's adopting is that she has had to pretty much fend for herself. Her dad did take her at some point, but the dad ends up trying to unwind what the trauma the mom caused. But he himself is traumatized and does things based off of what he learned as a child that were wrong. So perpetuating the same kind of behavior and teaching the wrong things. Now, the interesting thing about this young lady is that she has never succumbed to drugs. She has never prostituted herself out, as we know some traumatized teen girls do. She has self-worth. She came into the situation and she made me cry. I will tell you, when I met this girl, she made me fall in love with her. So I can understand how my friend would want to adopt her and take her away from all the bad stuff. But she won my friend over by saying, I just want to go to school. I just want to graduate and I want to get a job and I want to live out my dreams.
That's beautiful.
This girl came from drug addiction. She was neglected. She found solace in the neighbor's house with his daughters. And I told her, I said, you know, that's good, but it's important that your mom is involved. So when I sat these two down, I kind of wanted to know what happens to a child that does that goes through what she went through. So, and she will tell anybody. She told me, it's not that I'm ashamed of, and she just doesn't like her business being told out into the world, which is why this is more. I told her, I want to share your story. I will keep you confidential, but it is important to me and to everyone listening. This girl developed a borderline personality disorder, which basically means she was so neglected. She had to comfort herself. She had to take care of herself. She had to do everything that a mom and dad would do. She was her own mom and dad. So this is why my friend wanted to take her in, is because she doesn't even know simplistic things like proper way to be in public, like how to not be loud and free will and be wild in public, which is, to be honest, a lot of the problem with today's kids is they think that's the way to be. And it's a respect thing. You're respecting others by acting, like you have sense in your head.
Correct.
So, I mean, that was something she didn't realize, that there are things that you just don't post on social media. As a 16-year-old girl, you can't get away with those things and not end up in juvenile hall. You just can't, She right now is in fight or flight. I could see it. Like, even when I started talking to her, she's willing to tell her story. However, she doesn't know the proper way to be. Like, she apologizes for the tears. She apologizes for, getting emotional about it. So I can see that this child really is in the best care. My friend came to me because she's having difficulty with the court system understanding her perspective, where she's coming from, because the way that this child came into her life was completely the universe. She told me the most bizarre story. Her daughter ended up friending this girl randomly on Snapchat.
Okay.
So, and then she started coming around the house and started hanging out more, and they spent Christmas together, and that's when all of this came out, and she just was so afraid to go home. And my friend just was like, I can't, my kids are grown, I can't. And she took 2 weeks. She told me she took 2 weeks, and while the girl was staying with her, she watched how she interacts with people, watched how she is. She knows all the A's, B's, and C's of proper etiquette. This is, at least she knows. I mean, it's the most bizarre situation I've ever heard of in my life. So I know it's a complete and utter universe thing. Nobody brought this child to this woman's doorstep except the universe. So I feel in my journey, this situation is meant to be. So I do want to help her in her journey. And especially since my kids have only had to deal with anxiety and ADHD.
Right.
She is currently educating me on borderline personality disorder. It's something you see in the movies. It's never somebody you know.
Yeah.
It's never somebody you know, and it's always misdiagnosed. Now, I don't say I don't believe in therapy, but as I have told you, mine was a 2-year journey I took on my own. Nobody knew I was in self-therapy until I came out a completely different person. So that's why I say I want to help my friend. I want to help this girl. I want to help in any way I can. I just don't understand everything. So I want to kind of present to both of you this scenario, as far as if you were in my friend's situation, and you, not the adoption part by any means, to each his own.
Right.
Excuse me. To each his own. But if you came across a younger person, and I say younger because this is all about breaking the cycle. So we want the next generation to not suffer what we went through. And you came across a child with all of this trauma. What would you do? Or what advice would you have, I should say? What would you do? What advice would you have?
First, I would reach out to support groups for our friends and family of borderline
Okay.
Because there are a lot of pieces to that, and when someone goes through a borderline episode, breakdown, however you want to refer to it, it can be very traumatizing back to the other.
That's what she said. She's like, I don't even know
You
what
don't know
to
where it came
do
from.
because
You
one
don't-
minute she's on the floor crying, and
Yeah.
then the next minute we're hugging, like and she's off playing in the yard. Like I don't, my friends like I complete, and so it did spark this since I was having the summit.
But-
It's absolutely, I feel like the best thing to present.
You have to set, as the caretaker or friend or any relationship with someone borderline, you have to set boundaries for yourself, though. Yes, borderline is very difficult to manage and to deal with, but you can't let it you can't let it change you.
Okay.
You have to enforce boundaries anyway, and they will
when
push them.
And when you say boundaries, like
If somebody starts with borderline, they lash out at you, and they decide to project whatever the situation is, and that will happen when they start taking something out on you that is unreasonable. You can't just take it because an excuse, oh, it's because of the borderline.
right?
You can't-
Okay, yeah,
but it's also a delicate
right,
delicate way to handle
because
it.
she said the craziest part about the experience is when she does check out,
Mhm.
she doesn't even remember what happened.
Mm.
That's the difficult part. How do you discipline somebody that does this? So when you know this is happening, I agree, boundaries and borders are important, but it's also important for the person to understand they need to learn how to be in control of them. That's the part that I think my friend wants to help her with. Is it's not so much that she has this condition, it's more why she has this condition. And it's because she's never been in a place that has been safe enough for her to just process everything. She's never been somewhere long enough for her to sit still long enough to be safe enough to process everything. And I think what you're saying, that's good. Absolutely. She needs to protect herself, because I tell you what, having someone come at you, blaming you for things, for somebody that's basically used to being felt this way. I will tell you from years and years and years of being treated like property, it's always my fault. I grew up that way. Well, I didn't grow up that way. My marriage was that way. It's always my fault. No matter if I was in the room or not, even if I had nothing to do with it and it was a decision the other person made, it was still somehow influenced by something I did, and it was wrong. So that's part of, I think, also is understanding that it's not that you don't have the right to feel this way and let your mind process out whatever it's got to process out, because I do believe toxicity has to be spewed. It literally has to be vomited out of your body by tears and sweat and just like the ugly part of life. You have to spew it out of you. And I do think from what she's saying, because she does say her episodes are less and less, that I feel like she is in a safe environment. So what type of boundaries would you suggest, not just for her, but also for the child? The child needs to have like the ability to let these emotions out, but understand that you need to be, we're not throwing things in the house. We're not punching people in the house. There needs to somehow be that boundary there. What would you suggest?
More along the lines of the verbal abuse, because with borderline, they will break things down into and take it to the point where it gets very, very out of context, but it's still very real to them. That's part of the disorder part. You can't, but the person on the receiving end, you can't apologize for that. You can't accept what they're saying. You really can't even validate it. You know, you have to say, you know, this, what's
And you
being
almost
said
do.
here is it's not appropriate. It's not, this isn't accurate. This isn't factual. And you have to, you've got to end it. You've got to stop the interaction. You can't feed it.
She told me this morning about an episode that they had. I want to say she said something like it was Friday, and the girl was fighting with her daughter, and the girl ended up punching my friend's daughter, and it kind of went south that way. And by the time she got involved, this girl was on the floor rocking back and forth, crying, saying she wanted to go to the hospital. So, I mean, she's very traumatized.
Mhm.
And that's why I said it's good to have boundaries for yourself, because you do get sucked into the void on something like that. It's hard not to give in to somebody that's crying that hard about their situation. But in doing so, there also needs to be this boundary of what's real and what's not. You know, what would you say would be a good way? And I mean, I open it up to, I know we're kind of doing this one-on-one. Nikki's just kind of nodding over here, but I mean, both of you, I always present it to both of you. What would you suggest, like boundary wise, would be a helping her tell what's real and what's not?
I think at some point you recognize if it becomes manipulation versus a true remorse or something.
Okay.
But then again, you know, we're talking personality disorders here. These aren't things that go away. These aren't things that they only,
when you're broken,
you only manage
you're broken.
them. Yeah. You only learn to manage them, and those around you learn to manage them. It takes help. This is not
and I would say that's why I wanted to get involved, was because my friend looked like a deer in the headlights. Like, I want to help this girl. I want to give her a safe environment, but I did the episodes that my friend's kids had, I've even been there for them, and they're not like what she's described, so that's another thing that it's good to have some, maybe there are people out there that, I love your suggestion to look for support groups, because one of the things that the girl did is she almost like thrust this whole entire booklet of education at me as to what borderline personality is, and how, I mean, even one point she said to best describe it is taking a tennis ball. And while you look at the tennis ball, that tennis ball is there. But if I take the tennis ball away, you don't know if it's still in my hand or not. And you don't know if it's real or not, that it actually is there. That's how she described it to me. She has to visually see it to believe it, because otherwise, people's affections. She knows when you're in front of her that you love her. But when you decide to go run errands and disappear, and she's just like, a puppy in the window, like, when are you coming back? Are you coming back? She's in that mode. So what would you say is a good way to reassure her without getting sucked into the void of feeding the behavior?
I think it's going to be down to repetition. As far as that goes, she needs to see the consistency in order to understand it's there, because she's not used to it.
Okay.
She's not used to it because she's all, where are you coming back? Where are you going? Where are you coming back? That's because she's used to people not coming back or not be meeting those deadlines as she believed that they would happen.
Okay.
Necessarily.
That's good. That's good. That's very good.
And I think a lot of that, they both need someone to talk to, both your friend and the daughter. They're all going to need someone to talk to. And I think a lot of that is going to be needing to validate the feelings and emotions without necessarily being okay with the behaviors that stem out of that.
Right. Like taking
because
the
those
moment
are two
and
different
saying,
things.
When this happens, maybe we need to and I think the way that my friend talks to her, she's like, we need to rethink this. Like every single time she does something, or, you know, she's always trying to be like, we need to change the narrative. We need to change the script on this. So I want a better way to kind of say it without saying it, you know, where we're not structuring it around your episodes.
Right.
We're structuring your episodes around our everyday. You know, you're going to have find that outlet. You're going to have to find something that allows you to express those feelings. Because I do feel that as she heals, a lot of these triggers are being spewed out of her. Because she did, you know, I saw her a couple of days ago, and she looks like, you know, when you see a malnourished dog, and all of a sudden you see what they're getting what they need.
Yeah.
And they just look 20 times different than when they first started. You know, when she first came to my friend, she had acne all over the place, like everywhere. And that was due to the fact that she did not feel safe in her dad's home. So she ran away, and she was trying to go to school and be a runaway at the same time. So of course she's not taking care of herself, you know, and then she eventually, obviously you can't maintain that type of life. So, and that's why she hasn't been in school since, is because she just kind of melted. It just broke her to try and live up to being an adult when you're not an adult, you know? And I think that's why I see, even in my child, my daughter, push herself to the point of insanity and then fall apart because she can't do anything because of the expectations that are now on our children.
Mm-hmm.
They're children.
Mm-hmm.
There's no growth. There used to be a line. You know, you learned so much from kindergarten to 3rd grade. You learned so much from 4th grade to 6th grade. You learned so much from 8th grade or 7th grade to 9th grade. And then you had 10th, 11th, and 12th for high school. And then you graduated. Then you went and learned more in college. You know, at this point, juniors in high school are taking college courses. You haven't even graduated with your main core classes with a diploma that says that you're able to work, and you're already taking college classes that don't matter right now, you know. And that's what they're focusing on, instead of getting these kids through high school, just high school. You know, it's ridiculous, the fact that even my daughter has 3 hours in the morning towards her medical class that she gets certification for, that she's been taking for 2 years. Yet she is only liable for 3 of her core classes at this point in her senior year. So we're putting all the onus the last 2 years on her getting a career before she's even old enough to have a flipping career. Mm-hmm. And we've put that as our priority over teaching her how to even cook for herself, clean for herself, budget her balance,
do her taxes. It's tax season. These kids don't know how to do their taxes for themselves.
No, I totally think it. I mean, when I first started doing taxes, I mean, this was before all our apps, all our easy peasy apps. I mean, my mom and I had to go down to the library and buy the get the packet, and you had to rip all the forms out the back of the packet, and you had to fill those out. And I always had my mom fill them out because she took a course in school for script. So like, she's that one that can do calligraphy and stuff. And I'm just not that talented.
I'm the same way. My mom's like, here, you write it. You have better handwriting.
Right.
You do it. You do it.
And you know, that's the funny thing too, is our perception. I will tell you, as a left-handed person, I write like a kindergartner.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, you know, I never know what it's going to look like day to day.
No, and it
left-handed,
changes.
Exactly.
It always changes, and it always depends on where I got the paper at. If it changes, or the position of the pen, I never hold the pen
and the actual writing tool itself.
Like, I don't. It's always different, and sometimes I impress myself, and sometimes I'm like,
I would love to give like 4 pages of things that I write on any given day.
Right?
Give it to some forensic analyst and see if they can tell it's the same person.
I did have one
They
time,
can.
my mom worked for a lady that took a course in reading handwriting. I don't remember everything she said, but it was like she was telling my fortune. It was so weird how much she knew about me just based on whether I crossed my I or
whether
dot
it
my
was,
T or anything.
whether it
like-
was,
Right,
the FBI handwriting analysis would have a field day.
That freaked me out. I would think I was like 18 at the time, and I'm like, no, you're not supposed to know
Did the
so
girls
much.
did the girls tell you about the new TikTok challenge though? The new TikTok challenge is putting a pen to paper
I
and
saw that.
writing your first name without lifting the pen. Congratulations, children, you have discovered cursive. Congratulations. Not sure if you're aware of that or not, but they actually used to teach us that. They used to be a requirement.
And typing class too.
Oh God.
That's what's really crazy now is you get these new generations that only know how to text.
Yeah.
So
Faster than we can.
They are all thumbs.
Oh yeah.
All thumbs, and it's painful to watch. My daughter, and she's
It's
good
like
at the one finger. Yeah,
yeah.
the one finger. She's really good at it, but it just pains me. I'm like, you do know there's a better way. Like there is a row you're supposed to start at, right? You know, no, you don't know that. Okay.
Oh, right.
I was,
That's why those little lines are on the
Right.
keys in the
That's
center
why
of the
they
keyboard,
said
kids.
that's why they said if we locked one of these new children in a room with a rotary phone, they
Oh,
wouldn't know
no.
what to do.
Hours.
They wouldn't know what to
Hours.
do.
Hours.
I took a class. I majored in psychology in college, one of them, and I had to take a class where they wanted us to write our name with our opposite hand. And so everybody's doing it, and we only had like so many seconds to do it. And she comes through and she looks at mine and she's like, "At some point, did you break your left hand?" And I'm like, "More than once, yes," because next to each other, they look almost the same. I'm pretty much ambidextrous.
You lucky duck.
Well,
Yeah,
the
right.
reason
You
for this kind of
lucky
the
duck.
reason for this though kind of comes back to our topic here. It's because my mom didn't want me to be left-handed, so they tried to force me to be right-handed.
Yes, I was
because-
forced to they tried to do
Yeah.
it to me too. I think that
Yeah.
was why
It was
painful.
It was hard.
It was hard. And I will tell you, my mom had to have a conference with my kindergarten
Mm.
teacher because I cut something in half.
I did the same thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I couldn't cut
I
with
couldn't
those
cut around.
scissors.
Yeah, you had to cut a circle.
Yeah,
You had to cut a
ar-
circle. I
Yeah,
did the same thing.
I couldn't do it
Yeah.
because of the scissors weren't right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
they
why I
didn't
always
give
say
lefty scissors back.
yeah,
then.
they didn't
There were no
have that.
lefty
No,
scissors.
there was nothing for us
And
back then.
so I failed, and I'm like, but you told me to cut.
And
Mom."
that's discouraging. We are
Mhm.
sitting there thinking, and I will tell you, my whole entire life, I thought it was weird until I came to Cleveland.
I thought there was something. I totally thought
And
there was
that's
something
no
wrong with me.
joke. That's no joke because of the fact that even when I worked for the insurance company up in Michigan, I had to date stamp everything.
Everything.
All of my papers went
Upside down.
upside down, and I was flicking and stamping upside down
Mhm.
because I couldn't do it the right way. And everybody made fun of
Oh,
me
or
because
if
I
you
was
make-
weird.
If you have to make
No, it's
you
check
know,
not
marks.
weird. It's your own system.
I
Everybody
had-
has their own systems
well,
of doing stuff.
well,
It's
see, the
like,
thing
does
is
the toilet paper go over or under?
Well,
Everybody has their own way of doing things.
but you know, the thing is with left-handed people, we just had to figure it out
Yeah.
Right.
in a right-handed world. So
Yeah.
that's why
Holding your paper sideways.
You
to
know,
write, because
you had that
can't-
streak of lead
Yeah.
always on the side of your
Oh,
hand,
or trying to write on the chalkboard.
yeah,
without
and you had
erasing it.
chalk
Yeah.
always on your side of your hand.
Yeah.
Yes,
We had
So
to figure it out.
we had to figure it out, and that was the other reason why I just finally accepted my weirdness,
Mm.
because it's not weird to me.
No, it's not.
The things, my tics, my things that I do, it's me. And I will tell you, because I love me so much, I just am a hoot, you know?
I think so.
Because I just say whatever it is because I'm just accepted me. When I don't understand something, I'll call it out, I'll say it out. But like I said, took 44 years. It's Rome's not built in a day. You have to decide when to get, I always say it's a sliding door moment. You have to decide when to get off the bus of craziness, of the perpetual toxic cycle you live and have lived your whole life. And when mine happened, I knew when it happened. And I was scared to fucking death. I will say that. It was terrifying to sit in that car with him and look him dead in the eye and say, yeah, we're done.
Yep.
That was terrifying.
Is it weird that that's when my moment happened too?
I do think that is weird. We both did that at the same time. It's so weird.
It wasn't at the same time. I think mine was first by about a year.
But I want to segue into our next segment because it's really important, because this is basically what we're talking about. We're talking about falling in love with ourselves again, because that is one thing that I did do. And I fell in love with myself, not just by how I look, not by just how I think, but how I move, the decisions I make. It does not matter to me what other people think. It doesn't matter to me. I don't have to check a box anymore for anybody but myself.
Yes.
When I say I'm 100% independent, I'm 100% independent. And I don't mean that in some kind of angry white woman, rageful feminist way. I mean, I'm independent. I want someone in my life. I don't need someone in my life.
Amen.
And that is where I feel like I have been promoting to Redline Radio about the Men's Summit, because I do feel that that is a trait men are conditioned to be. Men are conditioned to be our fixers. So they need to be needed. And that's not true either. They don't need to be needed. They need to be wanted, because that's what we're all missing in our lives, is somebody to I matter too. I matter to somebody. I matter too.
Want to be
and they
there.
have chosen to be in my life. And
Hell
I have
or high
chosen
water.
to, right.
Yes.
And that's where a healthy relationship comes from, is two people figuring out, I don't need anybody, but damn, I want you.
Right.
Yeah. That's what it really is. So let's talk about that. So I want to talk about what causes us to fall out of love with ourselves. One of the things I found in my research was that growing up with not enough acceptance and too much shame can have us clinging to our shortcomings. So if you weren't raised around applause for your achievements, and it was only your achievements were only as good as the last one, so you're always striving because you're never good enough. This is what makes us fall out of love with ourselves, because that is our influence in our lives, is that it's never going to be good enough. It's never going to be enough for you to just be. And that's really what it's about. Falling in love with yourself is just being able to just be and just exist without any other reason than you have the right to exist like everybody else. But in our trauma, we don't feel that way, so there's things like body shaming. We talk about our weight, we talk about, if I just got my nose done a little bit, or my cheeks raised a little bit, or if my butt filled out a little bit, I would feel better about myself. There's things like making uneducated decisions. You're not asking the questions, you're just accepting the behavior. Distorting your mind. It distorts our mind by making us believe what other people say about us and how we look. We let that define us instead of us. I was taught when you go anywhere outside the house, you look 100%. 100%. Your hair's done. You've picked unwrinkled clothing, that kind of thing. That's what I feel is what women, I will tell you what, you never learn the craziness of women until you've had a teenage daughter, I swear, because I was never allowed to go to the store with my daughter until she put her face on. I just literally was like, it's going to be another half hour before we even leave this house. And one of the things that I said during COVID is we all done shamed ourselves. Like, we did not give a fuck during COVID. I will tell you that much. Nobody gave a fuck. So you see the grade just declining as we're secluded in our behavior. Nobody really gives a shit anymore about how they look. I'm going in my pajamas and my flip-flops, or my pajamas and my slippers, you know. I don't have my hair done. It's at best, if you want to call it a messy bun, we'll go with that. You know, it's that we declined as we isolated ourselves, and that is what I really truly think is a distortion of our mind. Is now all of a sudden we're back, we're all out and about. All of a sudden the toxic behavior didn't go away. Now all of a sudden we're talking about who's dressed like what. And the ridiculousness of our society shows absolutely. I don't know if you guys, I purposely make fun of our fashion these days because it is just absolutely the most, I don't know if we were visited by aliens or not. It is not normal for kids to be setting trends. I'm just saying, it's not right. It's supposed to be the other way around. Adults are not supposed to be looking like they're teenage clones. You know what I'm saying? Right. You're not 16 anymore. You're not 17 anymore. Stop trying to look like your kid. You know?
Or did kids just learn to say, hey, that's not my thing, so I'm going to do my own?
Yeah, but you got adults trying to be hip and cool by dressing like they're teenage kids.
I believe that's called a midlife crisis. Yeah. I believe those are the same people that are out here buying Corvettes when they have no business.
Hey, I can't say I'm not that person because I did, but it also goes back. I couldn't do that when I was young.
Well, that's a whole different thing. If you didn't have a childhood and couldn't get those things when you were a kid, then by all means,
this is just putting your value. Mm-hmm. This is putting your value in those things, you know.
Right.
But it also, one of the things of falling out of love with ourselves is also having a broken soul, which means we don't have the capability to love even ourselves, let alone anybody else. And that can never be an expectation. If you can't even love yourself, you shouldn't expect somebody else to love you. That's one of those hard truths that I had to accept.
Very much. So.
It's one of the things I will tell you about healing yourself is digging deep.
Levels of honesty you can't even imagine.
Ugly stuff. Like admission of maybe it was me. All the
it was me. Sometimes it absolutely was
maybe
me.
It was me that
sometimes it wasn't though.
You know, that really that's really what it is. Maybe it was me. It wasn't necessarily, I just wouldn't admit it at the time because I was prideful, because you're always wrong. And that one moment you were right, hell no, I'm not giving that one to you.
Yeah. Once you step outside that ego perspective of it though, it changes everything.
So that's something that I want to talk about for the remainder of our time, is how do we jumpstart a self-love journey? Because I will tell you, all your goals in life don't matter a pile of beans if you can't love yourself. Correct. You will never get out of your rat race. You will never get to a point where you don't have the hate and the anger and the shame. Right. You won't ever get out of the void if you don't start loving yourself. So one of the things that I had to do is forgive myself. Yes. And that is hokey. And I know people are like, no, I know, but it is. You are not to blame for uneducated decisions in life. If somebody decided to tell you a half truth and you bought it, you are not to blame for that. Correct. Because your nature is to accept those around you. That is by nature. We are not intended to be paranoid about the people we interact with. That's no way to live. You know, if you're wondering how this person feels about you or that person feels about you, or if they're going to come get you because you said something that they didn't like, that's no way to be. So you have to forgive yourself in order for you to start. That's the starting line. You have to admit to yourselves that you were weak. You were weak-minded. You didn't ask the questions that needed to be asked at the time. You let it happen. These
Right.
are things you have to forgive yourself for, is those events in your life are just that. They were events in your life. They don't define you. They just happened to you.
Right.
So that's why I say the first start is forgiving yourself. Now, these are in no order because I had to, one of the things I did with this section is I keep talking about how I got out, I got free, I made it out, I healed my trauma. And I will tell you, I have triggers I'm never going to get rid of. I made that peace with myself. But where I'm learning is my trauma triggers, as I call them, or my trauma reaction. Because if somebody's talking to me and I'm like, they're talking down to me, I feel like they're talking down to me. They're not talking to me, they're talking at me. And that just pisses me off because you should be talking to me. My trigger is to immediately lash out. Bitch, you're disrespecting me. You need to check your tone, and that's going on in my head. It is. But I don't any longer feel the need to say those things.
Right.
There's nothing that person is really doing that disrespects me or seeing. That's how they feel, and they're projecting it to me. These are the things that you realize when you're healed is you're not necessarily 100% the cause of everybody's problems. Maybe you did something to piss them off, but it wasn't you necessarily that it got all wrapped up with. They probably had this happen, that happened, that happened. You were just the last one on that line of things to happen to them that day, and boom, the bomb goes off. And I will tell you, that's a lesson I learned from the last 7 years with a daughter. So I want to just kind of explain these tips to you guys, see what you think. Maybe we can elaborate for those that are listening. One of the things I thought about in my journey was dissolving all of my labels. I am not a mom all the time. I'm not a single person all the time. I'm not a compliance analyst all the time. I'm just Jessica. And I do all of these things. These don't define me. These are things that are going on in my life. So dissolve those things, those titles that people have put on you, because that's how we also lose our identities. I was a mom. Why do I say was?
Because one's grown and the other's almost
but I
grown.
will never stop being a mom. I will always be a mom. So that's something that I had to, one of the scary things that you bring that up, Nikki, one of the scary things I have coming to me. And yes, I'm relieved and I'm overjoyed. I'm excited. I can't tell you how excited I am.
The empty nest.
But I'm also terrified because all I've ever known is raising babies for 25 years.
Well, you're still going to have Petey and Vanna. So.
Well, that is true. I do have my dogs, but raising humans, putting their needs before mine is just one of those things. I figured instead of causing myself a lot of stress and a lot of depression, I would start kind of acting that way now. I have started holding the girls more accountable in my home. You said you were going to do this. Why isn't it done? Holding everybody to their word versus I have no expectation of any human being on this God green earth anymore. It is you that determines the expectation I have. Like, say, if you say you're going to do something,
Right.
That's
Why
what I
hasn't it been
expect.
taken care of?
That's what I expect.
Right.
Don't say you're going to do something. Don't say you're going to be somewhere. Don't say you're going to show up something if you're not actually going to do that. You know, that's the only expectation I have with people anymore. But you do need to dissolve these titles. Like dinner had to be, or breakfast was always on the table at 7:00 in the morning. We always ate lunch at noon. We ate dinner at 5. I mean, that was my structure when I was married. I worked and lived around that schedule. I don't have to do that anymore, but I don't know any other way. So I am unlearning these behaviors early enough that it's not going to be devastating when my children fly the coop, as the way I look at it. But yes, I had to dissolve what people thought of me. I had to dissolve the picturesque that I had projected for so many years. I'm a goody two shoes. No, I make fucking mistakes all the time. I'm wacky as hell. I will be the first one to tell you I'm crazy. I have embraced my crazy because of the fact that it's mine. It's not yours. You don't have to deal with my crazy. I do. I'm the one standing in the middle of the room going, Jessica, what were we looking for? I don't know what we was looking for, but we need to find it. You know, I'm that person, but I don't have to be that person around other people. It's not their stuff. It's my stuff. So why should I be that crazy person unless it's entertaining for everybody? Because really, truly, that's my objective in life is to be entertaining. But why project that to other people? This is my shit. I'm dealing with it. You don't need to deal with my shit. Okay.
Well,
is basically where I'm at. So it's my fault for allowing people to put labels on me, for basically saying you're nothing better than this, by saying you're no more than this.
I wouldn't say it's your fault for having other people put labels on you. I say it's your fault for allowing those labels to affect you.
Yes.
Okay. Because
good point.
As women, we are inherently told, probably from the get, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy, your feelings are crazy, your emotions are crazy, your thoughts are crazy.
No, really, I am crazy.
You're crazy, you're crazy. But that's literally why they would send women to those institutions back 100 years ago.
Yes,
because they were speaking their opinion. They could read a book. They could do all these things.
This is the point of women's health is I am at a point, I will tell you, I am at a point where I am very frustrated with the healthcare industry with women.
Absolutely.
Beyond.
Absolutely.
Infuriated.
Being medically gaslit is one of the worst things. I will tell you,
one of the things that infuriates me more is when you understand my hormonal chemical balance and you get me on the right medication, why the hell are you going to change it the next month because it's similar to the drug I was taking? No. Give me the drug I was taking.
Insurance is cheaper.
Yes, I know.
It's the insurance companies.
Yes,
it's not even the provider. It's the insurance.
So instead of having the same type of menstrual cycle I've had always, now I'm having 2 in 1 month. You know,
I've had that.
So I had to switch my brand of birth control because of the fact that my doctor's a wackadoo and she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about because obviously you don't know my body makeup very well if you're just throwing drugs at me.
Right.
So that's where I'm at too, is she did the same thing to my daughter and my daughter ended up developing some sort of like hives or irritation to it.
Yeah, she's allergic to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not good. I actually don't take birth control at all. I have a uterine fibroid, which is basically a non-cancerous tumor. There's different types of them, but mine is in the muscle wall.
Mm-hmm.
So like any hormonal extra anything.
Oh, no.
It's
absolutely.
off like a rocket and it is so painful.
But that's also why it's important for us as women to stop fighting each other.
Right.
Because you know what if I find out, you know, I actually had to have a biopsy last year. Scared me to freaking death.
Yeah, I remember.
Because I lost a lot of weight, and when I lose weight, that's when I have fibroids as well, but mine develop in my breasts.
Oh, okay.
So when I lose weight, a drastic weight, I've had this happen before. They just never went ahead with the biopsy. The first time was when I went from 190 pounds down to 145.
Oh, geez.
So when I went that far down, I had a lot of free space up in my chest.
Yeah, that happens.
Because it shrunk.
Yeah.
So I developed cysts in my breasts.
Yeah.
And that's what they were seeing on their examinations.
Well, thank God it was nothing else.
Well, and that's why I said, I knew what it was when they did the biopsy, but when they're sitting here
it's so scary as hell.
When they're sitting here telling you, other things like they couldn't see it on the image, it was blurred, your brain goes down a path. It
right.
just
Every worst option possible.
And then it made me angry because why does my brain have to go down a path?
Because it's self-protection. My brain does it too.
No, it's not that. Though. It's that we should have better health for our women. Because of the fact that we should not be putting them through stress like this over something that these doctors didn't know my body.
Right.
They were ordered to do this test. They don't know my body. So you're giving me an assessment, a diagnosis on the fact that you don't know I have a chemical hormonal imbalance. You don't know that my body produces more testosterone than estrogen.
Right.
You don't know any of these things. What if that was part of that? You would need to know that to do that. So that's one of the things that I have been working on is really digging into myself, paying attention to my quirks, my bodily quirks, because that's how I discovered why I have to be on birth control the rest of my life. It's the only product they have out there that produces enough estrogen to counter my testosterone production. So I have to be on birth control. Not that I wouldn't be on birth control, but it's a choice I have to make in order to feel normal every day.
Right.
So that's why I said there's not enough being done for women's health, in my opinion. Another thing that I want to talk about is another step, I should say, in the journey is spending time with yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's not I'm not talking about watching TV alone or, going to dinner by yourself. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about off the phone, listen to your favorite music, do your favorite thing that you like to do to relax. Nobody needs to know. Social media does not need to know every step you take in your life. It is not necessary. So that is one thing that I do encourage you ladies to work on is post things that you want to post because you want to post it, not because it's something you have to do in order to feel normal, because you should be feeling normal when you're by yourself.
Absolutely.
Because that is the best place to do it is in the room alone, shut the door, put something on that relaxes you, do something, have a drink if you are one of those, put something in the air if you're one of those, something that makes you feel relaxed. Just spend time with yourself. I will tell you, I have had, I share things because it just cracks me up. I have laughed at myself so many times. I have a good time when I'm by myself. I do, because I'm the only one that gets me. I will laugh at something, the stupidest thing, and I will literally pick up my phone to go share it with somebody. And I'll
put
stop.
your phone down, yep.
Because nobody else is going to laugh like I did.
They're not going to appreciate it.
No, right. Yeah. So that's the other thing that I encourage you to do. Spend time with yourself. Because I will say this, every time, and I even talk to my guy friends that way, are you doing you? I always ask everybody.
I do me every morning.
Oh
Lord. Little too spicy on a Sunday. Hang on.
Ow! So one of the other things you need to do is be alone versus being lonely. There is a difference.
Absolutely.
There is a difference.
And I'll say this is probably one of the biggest things that helped me get back to myself was taking a job where I started to travel. alone for the
Yes.
last 4 years. After I got over everyone saying, "Oh, aren't you afraid to travel by
I was,
yourself?"
oh my God, I would tell you.
That's
I
my
got
thing right
chills
now.
when
I'm
you
dealing
moved.
with that
I
right now.
totally got chills. And then she started posting all her places, and I was like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, I'm completely alone going to middle of nowhere. I might be in the car, get off of a plane and be in the car for another 4 or 5 hours.
And you're completely
spending-
abandoned
you're-
by yourself in a
Yeah,
right.
foreign place.
and I assure you, there's no radio you want to listen to or anything like that. So it's, so you really, and sometimes I just left it turned, I leave it off. It's
Yeah.
complete silence, and it's just me.
There was a lady that well, I say we work with, but she's no longer with me. She finally figured it out and left. but there was a lady that I worked with that did that she basically was picking up her phone, answering work stuff while she was overseas. Now, granted, she was overseas because of work, and I get that. But if you are a 8 to 4:30, the thing that this world has, and this is why I applaud this generation. There are only certain things you will see me applaud them for, because they're a bunch of they're slow to the start line. I will say this generation is slow to the start line. But one of the things they encourage me is they talk fact. Why am I'm already giving you 8 hours out of my day.
Mm-hmm.
That takes 8 hours away from what I really want to be doing because I need to make money. Why do you get 5-6 more hours in the evening after I'm done for the day? You shouldn't. I don't care if I'm on this trip on your dime. I am only punched in 8 to 4:30. You don't pay me to not be in from 8 to 4:30. When you pay me that much, I will do whatever you want me to do for you, but I shouldn't be picking up the phone when there are things going on in America and I'm in a foreign country and my manager or supervisor can't handle whatever's happening on stateside, and I have to intervene at 10 o'clock at night, my time, because it's 3 o'clock their time or something like that. That's the thing that I think we also do, because we're conditioned to always do a good job 100% of the time and give 110%. Well, if your employer is not giving back by putting it in your paycheck or giving you some sort of acknowledgement, then no, you don't get 100% of me. I don't give you 100% if you don't give it in return. It's the golden rule. It's a golden rule.
Right. And that's part of the work-life balance that I struggle with, because my company has me in charge of some of their socials. So 24/7, it doesn't matter if I'm out at somebody's wedding or if I'm on my own personal vacation. Well, it's more I handle like comments and Facebook messages.
Yeah,
so
but that's still working.
Those come in 24/7.
Yep, you're still working.
It doesn't matter if it's Valentine's Day or.
So one of the other things that we do is react.
Yes.
We don't take time to process our feelings, to process what's being said to us. We just feel and we react to what we feel. And that's something I'm learning too, is some of those feelings are triggered by what somebody has done or experiences or certain things that we have had in our lives that did the same thing. I will tell you, there are many, many times, and that's why it's terrifying for me to date right now. Even though I will say I am as healed as I can ever probably be. I'm going to continue to grow, but as far as trauma goes, I just don't have it anymore. It's done. It's gone. It's over. I don't feel anything for it anymore. But it's still hard because I'm terrified at every single man that wants to take me out talks like my ex, acts like my ex. It's just like, no, I can't do this again. And they could be on their point. They could be a job, living by themselves, have a, good etiquette, have everything that is picturesque to me. I'm freaking terrified of what if I say yes again, like before, and I'm tricked?
Yeah.
Am I going to fall backwards again? Because I don't want to go that way. I want to go this way. I want to go forwards, not backwards.
To answer that question, no, you wouldn't fall back again.
Well, this is what I'm learning about these situations now. I say no. I say no. It is like, I don't know if all of our listeners out there understand what that means, but for somebody that's always a people pleaser, saying no is like probably the biggest accomplishment in our lives, because we saying no comes with guilt. And how can I make it work so that I can appease you? And rearranging my life to make your life easier. That's what a people pleaser does. So being able to say no and being able to tell a man, date me properly, take me out.
Right. And having that
Let's go
backbone to
out and
stick
have
with it.
fun. No, I don't want to just go back to each other's places. Take me out. Let's go have fun. Let's get to know each other.
Netflix and chill is over, people.
It's over. The 90s are over, guys.
over.
The 90s are over.
There's a time and a place for everything.
No, listen, but women want men to have an interest in more than just that. And that's fine. If a woman just wants that, that's fine. If that's all you're there for, that's absolutely
so. One of the
fine.
things I learned is we are made for our yin and yang.
Very much.
It's not a matter of wanting and needing, but in order for completion, we have to have our yang to our yin.
And the balance of
we
that.
need the balance of that in our lives.
Absolutely.
That can be in the form of a friend, that can be in the form of a relative. It does not matter. If you have that other person that gets you and takes you away from the ledge when they know you that well, they're like, yeah, you need to simmer down.
They can see it in your face before you even say a word.
I know what you're going to do there. You need to chill out.
Absolutely.
And even if that person is not romantically involved with you, you still need the counterpart, because everybody needs somebody to be accountable for. Or otherwise, we're wilding out here being anarchists, I'm just saying, in order to tame the chaos in your life, you need that kind of balance in whatever form you find it. It doesn't have to be male or female. It could be you are perfectly happy being by yourself, but you need a companion. Maybe that's in the form of a dog, an animal of some sort, or maybe it's just going and sitting on a bench at a museum watching all day. Whatever contentment you find, you need to have that other half to balance you out. But I do recommend that you have somebody, because we all need that person that we can go to that's going to pull us away from the ledge before we go over. And I will tell you, I wouldn't have made it through last year if I didn't have mine, because there were times where I kept saying, I feel myself going. I feel it. It's going to happen. I'm going to let go. And then I'm going to go into the darkness and I'm never going to come back. And these people are like, no, you're not. You're going to do this. You're going to be okay. So you need that balance in your life. Somebody that doesn't take your shit.
Yeah, somebody that doesn't enable it.
Right. Somebody that does not enable and perpetually keep you in a toxic place, in a dark place. Somebody that's going to reach their hand down and pull you up, and then you're going to dust yourself off, and then you're going to go do shots. That's the kind of friend you need to have, is just somebody that's going to get you out of the void and sees it and knows that you need to get out of the void.
Right.
So, another thing we need to learn about is learning to trust yourself again. One of the hard parts for me when I first became single again is anybody that asked me out, I automatically was like, oh yeah, I know your game. I know what you're playing at. I know what you're doing, and that's not healthy either. Right. Ladies, that's not healthy either.
Right. It should take more than a slide into the DMs to get a date. I'm just saying.
Well, it's more It's more the just because he slides into your DMs does not mean he doesn't want to talk to you as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That's definitely
they're
important.
not all looking for a good time. Not all of them.
No.
I will tell you, there are real men out there. There are real men out there.
Very much so. I'm lucky to have found one.
Another thing we need to do is take time to determine a want versus a need.
Yes.
Because we do a lot of things after we end a relationship. And we do it because, like what Tiffany said, I didn't have it growing up. So sometimes our exaggerations take it to extreme. We're spending money we don't have to get what we want versus what we need. When you're healing, you don't need stuff. You don't need people. You don't need all of the outside white noise. You need yourself when you're healing. So in order for you to determine whether it's good for you or not, you need to take a moment and ask yourself. I ask myself permission to do stuff all the time because I trust what I have to say. Now, you know what happened the last time we did this. Yes, I know. I know what happened the last time we did this.
Ask the question, what happens if we don't get this?
Right. That's a good way of looking at it.
If we don't do this, then what's that mean?
What's going to happen?
How the sky's not
It's
going to
the same with saying no to people.
Yeah.
Oh, so I can't do your gig. I can't be there for your birthday party. We not friends no more? Really? We're going to take it there? That's a level we're going to take it to. That's what we in our traumatized mind do when we say no. I truly, truly believe in my head, when I say no to a guy, I'm never going to talk to him again. I will tell you, I immediately defeat myself because that's my trigger. He doesn't know it. He doesn't know the crazy game going on in my head.
I don't
with
think
me.
any of them will ever be able to figure out that game fully.
So that's what I mean is always take stuff as they are, not as how they've been. Because of the fact you got to be able to trust yourself again, because you have to make decisions in your life, especially the older we get, the more adults we have to be. You have to make decisions in your life. If you don't trust your decisions, you're going to be basically treading water for the rest of your life because you're never going to grow. So that is one thing. After you've had a traumatic experience, you need to put yourself in a situation that you can start trusting yourself again. Maybe you start off slow. Maybe you start off like I did. I started off secluding myself from my circle so that I could assess why am I, and even when I'm having a conversation at work, I'm so glad we're working from home right now. Let me just say that. I question people's ability to think on a daily basis. So that's nothing new. But it's really, truly, I have those conversations with myself. It's really important that you be able to trust, because you will cripple yourself in life depending on others to think for you, because they're not thinking for you. They're thinking for them.
Mm-hmm.
So you always want to make sure that you take that time to trust yourself again. And you will. You will. It doesn't feel like it. It really doesn't feel like it. But each decision you make, that you trust it and not do anything. You're just going to make a decision and you're going to let it happen. You're not going to pick it back up. You're not going to, second guess it. You're not going to deny it and say, oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. You're going to make a decision and you're going to let it happen. And then you're going to assess the results of that decision. And that's how you trust yourself again. Did it work out for us? Okay. Then we know we make good decisions. Did it not? Okay, well, then we need to talk, Yeah. So those are the things that's how you kind of start trusting yourself again. Another thing you need to determine is setting boundaries. The biggest move I made breaking up with my boyfriend was setting a boundary. You will never know what it's like with somebody that has none. So when you have someone, like, it was more of a test for not just me, but for him. I wanted to see it happen. I'll be honest. I'm one of those people. I want to see the science experiment per se. It's just the scientist in me. I have to prove my theory. So what I would do is I would set a boundary with him, and then I would sit back and I would watch him react to it and watch him bark at everything I said, and until he exhausted himself. And that's how I knew it was a boundary. Because if you really truly had a problem, if it was a real problem, we would be having a discussion, not you barking until you exhausted yourself. So that was how I kind of proved to myself that I was doing the right thing and moving in the right direction. So boundaries are important. It is not just with significant others, though. It's with our children. Go figure.
And everyone else, our family members, our friends.
Everybody else in your life. Don't have to feel obligated just because they're your family. Don't feel obligated just because they're your child. It is not your decision. Like when my daughter decides to spend all her money and then frick, I don't have enough to get through the next week. That is not my problem. I told her I am obligated under law to do these things. Put a roof over your head, food in your mouth, and clothes on your back. I'm meeting those needs.
Right.
So where is it my problem that you can't function now? It exactly. Is not. And I embarrassed her one time because she assumed that I was going to pay for her food. And when I got to the window, I reached for her card and she looked at me and said, "Aren't you paying?" I said, "Where did I say I was paying?" And she said, "You said you were taking us to Wendy's."
That doesn't mean I'm paying.
I said I was taking you to Wendy's, and that's what I did.
Literal sense of the word.
So that's also where the boundaries lie. It is not everybody else's job to walk eggshells around you. It is your job to check yourself. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the people in your life or the just, it's all craziness and you can't handle it and you're about to just bust, you need to take a step back and assess your boundaries. Because if people were respecting your boundaries, the people that you should have in your life should be. That's as simple as that. If they are not respecting your boundaries, they are not your people. It is simple as that.
And it doesn't matter who they are to you.
And I will tell you, I have taken it to that level. I am no longer playing around with bloodlines and loyalty anymore. It's if you cannot manage to respect my boundaries, you don't get to be in my life anymore. You don't get to participate in my journey.
I'll give you one try. If I give you my boundary and I explain to you exactly why that boundary is there and what caused that boundary to be put there, and you still disrespect that boundary, I'm done.
See, so
I'm done.
I am the type of person. Done. I am the type of person that goes with common sense.
No, I will actually take the time to dummy it down.
No,
I will take the time to dummy it down and explain, hey, I understand we might not have the same upbringing and background. This is why XYZ. But if you can't even respect that after, as an adult, I'm sitting down to you and telling you that, if you can't respect that, I don't have time. Please grow up before you start raising children.
I'm talking about like showing up at your house whenever, at all times of the night, and calling you on the phone after hours, you know,
anything.
These are things I will tell you I no longer tolerate. I have a cutoff time of when I am available. And after that time, I'm no longer available because I know what I need. I need to go to bed at 10 o'clock latest, or I'm no good to my day the next day. So that's a boundary for me, is letting people know, hey, you want to do something, it's got to be before this time. If you want to have a chat, it's got to be before this time. Oh, it's 9:30. Well, sorry, I'm getting ready for bed. Let's talk tomorrow. I have had to learn to do that because my time is my time. I have given it away so freely by being a people pleaser. And who suffered for that? Me.
Right.
I ended up in the hospital. I ended up with kidney failure. I'm the one that had all this stuff happen to my health. It did not affect any single person I was people pleasing, not once, but it put my life in strife. I had to find people for my children to be taken care of because I was impatient. So these are things I allowed in my life. I allowed it to go too far because of my trauma. So that's why I said it's always important to know that part is your time is your time. It's important that you do that. Let your nose be nose.
Yes.
Let your nose be nose. And I mean, you have those friends that go, oh, come on.
Yeah.
You know, and
Just one time.
Just one time. It ain't gonna be no big deal.
And everybody's falling to peer pressure. Everybody has.
It's and that's where I say when you learn to let your boundaries, when you learn about boundaries and you put those up in place, your nose will be no. And I will tell you, it's not that I don't try to rearrange my day. If it's possible for me to rearrange it, I will. But I also will sit back. I won't just answer your question, am I available today? Because I have priorities now. I have made things in my life priorities. So no, I can't come out and play because I have to pick my daughter up from work. No, I can't come out and watch a movie with you because I have to take my daughter shopping. You know, these are things that are priorities for me. And if they're a deal breaker for you,
sorry about your luck.
I don't see the problem.
Right.
You know, I just don't. So that's why it's also important to let your nose be nose. No's are not maybes. No's are never maybes. Let them be no's. Okay. If somebody tries to talk you into, restate the no. It's very important that people know when it's no. Okay. And if they don't understand the no, then you don't need them in your life. That's pretty much the theme. If you've healed yourself in this formula, okay. If you want to heal yourself in this kind of formula, this is the result of it. Mm-hmm. Everything will fall into place for you if you love yourself. My final thing is give yourself a break. You can't be all for everybody. You can't even be all for yourself. Give yourself a break. It's okay for you to cry when things get hard. It's okay for you to just break down in the middle of making breakfast. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. So in wrapping up, guys, I wanted to do something really, really, really special as I grow as I call my Amazon Nation. I am in the process of growing my own Amazon Nation. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of the women that I have in my tribe so far. They are amazing women, and I recognize every one of them as being accomplished in their lives. They don't have to wow the world. They wow their own selves. So I am very proud of my tribe. But in doing so, I want to promote and get back to women, recognizing women. One of the women that I actually researched, because to the outside world, we're almost wrapping up Black History Month. And I thought it would be kind of a cool thing to do to talk about Sojourner Truth. Sojourner Truth was just a Black woman down in Akron, Ohio. Yes, folks, she's one of us. And she actually gave one of probably the best speeches ever in history. It's actually probably, I would say, if I was going to sum up what the women's movement really truly is about, because I've probably listened to this speech about 1 million times since I found it. I would say this is it right here, folks. This is what the women's movement is really, truly about. So I want to just real quick give your details in case somebody that was watching wants to ask you questions from what you've said. I want to just really quick wrap up. And then we'll go out with her speech. So Tiffany, why don't you tell us if anybody's got any questions for you, where can they find you?
You can define me.
Well, that's what they say. I'm trying to be hip here, woman. All right, I'm trying to be hip. That's what they say. It's your social media. What do they call it, Tim?
Social media handles.
There you go.
Yeah,
See,
well, I don't have
this
any,
is
though.
this is what I need Tim for. I can't do this without him.
I don't have any public. I don't have any public social media presence at all.
Okay, but are you on Facebook?
Privately, yes.
Okay, she's on Facebook privately, folks. So
Yes.
talk to me first.
Yep. You can only
I will talk to me first if you got some questions for Tiffany. She's trying to live out her life privately.
Yes.
How about you, Nikki?
I'm on Facebook, and I also have an Insta that's Nikki Bear 216.
Okay, and I am Jessica Steffes. I am on Facebook because, yes, I have condensed my life to one social media, and that's all I need.
Amazing.
That's all I need, folks. And I am always open for questions, concerns, anything that you want to talk about. I am a lead compliance analyst with a medical billing company, so I know a thing or two about confidentiality. I am 100% confidential. If you want to talk out your problems, I am here for you. I do want to thank Tim for being, as usual, his awesome self.
Oh, you're making me blush.
Okay, I have to do this, ladies, because it's just the thing.
Okay.
Tim has to say Sudsy-wee.
Sudsy-wee!
Okay, now my podcast is complete. All right, Tim, take us out.
Well, children, where there is so much racket, there must be something out of kilter. I think that twixt the Negroes of the South and the women at the North all talking about rights, the white man will be in a fix pretty soon. But what's all this here talking about? That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man when I could get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children and seen most all sold off to slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And ain't I a woman? Then they talk about this thing in the head. What's this they call it? That's it, honey. What's that got to do with women's rights or Negro rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint and yours holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? When that little man in black there, he says women can't have as much rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did your Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, these women together ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now they is asking to do it. The men better let them. Obliged to you for hearing me. And now old Sojourner ain't got nothing more to say.